I believe we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, let me just keep an eye on my laptop here for 2 seconds, make sure this shows up on the internet. Here we go. It says starting, retrieving your content. Yes, so we are live on the internet. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another week of CoCoTALK, the nation's leading color computer talk show. Despite the fact it's the only live color computer talk show, we are leading the nation in color computer live talk shows, I'll have you know. So another week with nothing but gorgeous, beautiful men I'm surrounded by here. We have Fedor Stamen, Richard Cavell, Bill Noble, Mark Overholzel. Well, I take that back. David Ladd is also here. And then L. Curtis Boyle. And welcome, gentlemen. Thank you all for being here.
Hello,
Nicole is in the live chat. Hello, Nicole. And Curtis is in the live chat. Hello, Curtis. And it's another week. And every week I say to myself, what are we possibly going to talk about this week? And some weeks the news writes itself. You know, sometimes there's a hot topic that's going on in Facebook or in the mailing list, or just something really cool has happened. And some weeks you say to yourself, well, what are we going to talk about? But the good news is there's never a week where we can say absolutely nothing happened this week. You know, like right now there's a lot of cool stuff going on with media player stuff. Simon Jonason's been posting a lot of videos on his demos using John Linville's Game Master cartridge. Ed Snider's been showing his media player demo, which looks absolutely amazing. There's all kinds of projects going on, so there's literally never going to be a completely quiet week where nothing happened in the world of color computer, which is, I guess, is good. It's good for us, right? So keeps the corporate sponsors, keeps the network television folks happy, all that good stuff. So that's always nice. Mark Overholzer is also in the voice chat. Hey, text chat. Hey, Mark. So before we get into whatever we're going to get into today, do we want to go around and just say, hey, what was your week like today? Did you do anything cool? Did you work on any projects? Did you read anything? Did you see a good movie? Anything like that. So you guys want to just kick off and tell us what you've done this week?
Sure, I do. This is Mark.
Go ahead, Mark.
Okay, so there's a new CoCo guy. He won one of the prizes for the Retro Challenge. His name is, I believe, Matteo Trevisan. Anyway, he was interested in getting a CoCo, but trying to get one into Italy is a little tough. So he found a nice one online for $40. It was a multi-key keyboard one. So I got it for him and upgraded the 16K to 64K because I had some 4164s laying around. Imagine that. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so it's got extended basics, so I'm putting it in a box and hope to get it shipped off today to him. So also throwing in a bunch of other junk. Actually throwing in a Timex Sinclair and a 16K RAM pack and some Apple manuals.
Wow.
Anyway, I'm going to try to work on a text game, hopefully network type, so I got a bunch of junk for him. So anyway, so that's what I've been doing this week. So CoCo 2 in the box.
Very cool. Very, very cool. I wouldn't call a Timex Sinclair junk. Some
Paperweight
other,
maybe, but not
some
junk.
other junk, right? So yeah, that's a cool little system.
Anyway, so got a few extra cables and a few things in there for him. So anyway,
sounds like another soul saved.
Another soul save.
Another convert.
Keep these CoCos out of the landfills, you know.
Yeah.
Right.
We should get more converts, more CoCo converts.
Yeah. That's cool. That's good. That's always good to hear that we're helping somebody get a CoCo in their hands, and especially if they're going to be working on something with their CoCo.
That's the plan.
Very cool stuff. So I have a question for David Ladd, and I think the world definitely wants to know what's new in the world of floppies. And are we able to get more tracks squeezed into our floppies and get these floppies working on emulators in ways that,
God never intended.
Well, as far as emulators go, still working with Tim to figure out a way to get the JVC header stuff working on MAME. What's funny is MAME actually emulates the floppy by actually storing the raw MFM track data in memory. It doesn't actually just store the sectors in memory. It actually recreates the floppy in memory and works with it that way, which I find extremely interesting that it would take that route for at all. So
it makes sense if you're emulating the hardware, because you're having to, keep track of all that kind of stuff to properly emulate hardware anyway. So it makes sense.
Yeah.
It also means that MAME should easily handle all this.
Oh, it should, but the thing is for the JVC, it's calling a generic to the spec for the Western Digital 17.9X and 17.7X chipset protocols. They're following the book spec. So you have no control over changing any of the values that this special format utility does, where it completely throws the book out the door and starts changing values to completely different values that, like I said last time, I don't know how these numbers work because they don't match the spec, but they do, and therefore it works on real hardware. And in MAME, if you use one of the MFM-based floppy formats, it works flawlessly there. It's just the JVC, since all it stores is the raw sectors in the floppy image, it's got to use mechanics to recreate that in memory, which right now doesn't quite work the way we need it to yet.
So it's a work in
But
progress.
it will get there. Yes.
And it's interesting. And Nick Morentis has joined us. G'day, Nick. How are you?
G'day.
G'day. And at any time too, if you anything you want to share with us as far as updates on Gunstar or anything too, that would be kind of cool. We're kind of just right now going around the room talking about what we've done this week in the world of retro and technology, or anything else that might be interesting. Yeah. Okay. So
are we live yet?
Oh yeah, we're live. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, please excuse Nick's tardiness. He was busy wrestling a koala bear. So,
it's interesting the things that we can do to quote unquote break an emulator, or at least find the things that had not been completely thought out or thought through. So it's a really obscure thing. I mean, does it mean the emulator is a bad or broken emulator? Not necessarily, no. But there is a particular thing that some nut job like David Ladd will discover that
I'm sorry I ever got you started on this route.
Yeah. But no, it is interesting, and it's interesting that you're doing, because what is the purpose of an emulator? An emulator is supposed to recreate the hardware experience, and if you can do it in hardware, theoretically you should be able to do it in the emulator. And at least it's in some of our emulators, we have a little bit more real-time access to people to make changes. And right now, I know we've been talking about MAME a lot, and for better or for worse, we have people out there who will take these issues and work on them. So.
Yeah, and also one of the other things, while I was talking to Tim, and Tim's currently looking into workarounds for that. With Nitrous 9 Level 1, because now we've got people that have CoCo 1s and CoCo 2s and Dragons that have the 6309 CPU in it, I was also going through, well, how do I add a version of those machines in MAME to also have the 6309 CPU? It can be done, because I did figure it out. It's the way they got the source code set up. It's interesting to try to follow the way it's set up, but once you start figuring it out, it's not so bad.
Okay. That's
so.
Cool.
So
yeah, and I've been helping David a little bit too on trying to get, like, it looks like the 6309 Nitrous 9 Level 1 is actually basically 6809 code just recompiled. There's not a lot of the 6309 stuff actually in there, so we're kind of bouncing back and forth when I get a little bit of time every once in a while to try to put some of that stuff back in to speed it up rather than just native mode.
Very cool. Very cool. So, yeah, so David has been working on many different CoCos in MAME, right? So he's making a CoCo 1 and 2 with the 6309 and all kinds
And
of
a
stuff like
dragon.
that. And a dragon with the 6309. So again, if an emulator is supposed to emulate hardware and we can do this in hardware, if we can do it in our emulator, that's a cool thing. And so it sounds like there is some level of modularity to MAME where we can kind of tweak components of the virtual machine, so to speak.
Yes. It just takes a little bit of the CoCo 3, since they had the CoCo 3H, which was the 6309. I was poking through the source code, and that's how I got the example of how to do it. And basically, they just go through for the CoCo 3H. They say, use the CoCo 3, but remove the 6809 CPU and replace it with 6309 CPU, and then it does that. So when you build it, it's got all the components the CoCo 3, just with the 6309 replaced over the 6809. So
you should be able to do the same thing with all the older models too. Then.
Yes. Yes.
That's
And I think
cool.
that's a good project to do because, I mean, the nice thing about the CoCo 1s and the earlier CoCo 2s and the Dragon is that the CPU is socketed. So people that want to test stuff on MAME using 639 can replace the real CPU much easier than you can do in a CoCo 3. There's no desoldering. They just unplug a chip, plug a new chip in, you're done.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
One of the discussions that came up this week too on the Facebook group was talking about, has anybody thought about making a hardware compatible CoCo clone where you can, because it's harder to find CoCo 3s, for example, like so if you wanted a CoCo clone that you could plug in a cartridge to, which sounds like a neat idea, but I think what most people chimed in is that the cost of doing that is prohibitive. And sometimes you gotta just say, well, either you're gonna find a real CoCo or you're gonna do an alternative like an emulator, a Raspberry Pi, or like a nano FPGA type situation. I don't know anybody who wants to rebuild a modern CoCo clone that is completely hardware compatible. It sounds like a really cool project, but it might be something where that person needs to do it for themselves rather than creating it as a community thing you can purchase, because I don't think the cost is going to make it.
Yeah, I myself don't know. If the CoCo 1 and 2 would probably be the most feasible to recreate, because you can probably get the 6847, all the PIAs,
all the hardware,
and the 6309s. So you can pretty much get, in my opinion, everything except for one component, which goes into the whole thing that I don't really want to go down, the ROMs.
Okay.
So
yeah.
that would be the only caveat to that whole project would be the ROMs, and I'd rather not go down that part because we could spend hours on that.
Right.
part.
And what about the 6-pin DINs? Are those all still pretty readily available?
Yes, the 6-pin DINs you can get, because I ordered several for my joystick conversion project. So you can still get those connectors without any problems. The 4-pin, the 5-pin, and the 6-pin. So
the plugs
pretty much, so pretty much everything you can get within reason that I've checked into anyway.
Okay, what
just
about the
came back
cartridge
same
slot?
here. Yeah, same here, Mark. I was able to actually get everything. I've got 6847s, 6821s, 6809s, 6309s. They're the only ones that are hard to find are the SAM chip and the Gimme. Those you don't find.
Okay.
Go ahead, Nick.
Just going back to what you were saying about the ROMs, if you're going to build or rebuild a color computer, you're probably better off just using some flash RAM, supplying it with just flash RAM, and let the user burn a ROM, any ROM that they want, for that matter. Make your own even, but the ROMs are available off the net illegally, if you want to call it that. But you don't have to supply the ROMs.
Good point. Yeah.
Just have it, design it so it's some flash RAM. It's up to the user then, just like buying an emulator or running an emulator, where you locate the ROMs yourself and plug them in.
Right.
So the ROMs aren't really a problem.
Yeah, and then it also allows the user to do optional things like, use a better DOS ROM, like ADOS Extended or something.
Exactly.
Which doesn't have legal issues.
Yeah.
Interesting. Right. But what I'm hearing here, now I don't know if anybody said anything about the actual cartridge slot itself, though. That bus expansion, is that over the counter type stuff too?
Yeah, 40 pin connector.
You can still get those 40 pin headers, the cartridge slots, because I actually Ed Snider, everything keeps coming back to Ed Snider. I brought that up on the Facebook page quite a while back, because I was wanting with my Glenside IDEs, I wanted to populate the two I have with the cartridge connectors. And he said, well, here's the supplier I went to for my headers. And of course they were 50 count, and I didn't even think about checking to see if there was less. But I ordered a whole 50 count of those connectors. I have like 46 left.
Means there might be some for sale.
So but yeah, you can pretty much get the slots as well. So
that's pretty impressive. But so what I'm also hearing now is that we can basically recreate a CoCo 1 and 2 that are pretty common to get on eBay right now anyways. What people probably want is a CoCo 3, and the hard thing there is the gimme and a few other things, which, still kind of a work in progress.
Well, the gimme, if Ed's, again, back to Ed's project that him and Gary are working on, that gimme project, that would fix that issue as well. So,
but that's not ready yet.
No, that's not ready yet.
Right, but that's something to look forward to.
Yep. The thing is that gimme add-on will probably be close to $100. So if you're talking about $100 just for the gimme component on its own, let alone the rest of the motherboard, you're probably talking about a recreated CoCo costing $300-400 all up.
Right, and at that point,
considering that one CoCo 3 on eBay was $17,500 recently, that sounds like a pretty good deal.
Yeah, I bought it. No, I didn't.
Well,
Nick took 5% of the Popstar royalties to purchase that.
I bought it for the embedded bag of cocaine. That was that was the value.
Now that's value add.
Yeah.
But even though with the CoCo 3s being in shorter supply than the CoCo 1s, $200-300 you might think is too much, but if you've got to recreate the logic board, who knows how much the replacement logic board would be. So, and then you still have to source the components. So, I think the FPGA would be $100. Okay, yeah, but we can't get replacement gimmies at all. So, that's going to be something.
I think you're talking about a very small market.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's going to be worth doing anyway. So
not at this point. I think once CoCo 3s get even more rare and you just can't get them anymore, period, at any price, then it becomes a feasible thing.
Right.
I think it all comes back.
Chat. Ed, we need to get you on Skype. Sorry.
Sorry. Far away.
Go ahead, Nick. I'll stop interrupting you.
I think really, if you're talking about a recreation of a motherboard, you're better off just making a motherboard with an FPGA that does it all, much like what the current FPGA CoCos are doing anyway. So,
yeah, just a matter of adding old style ports so you can use some of your old peripherals and some new ones too, because you want to future proof it so that you're not having to redo the whole thing again.
That's right. Well, 5 years down. The CoCo 3 FPGA by Gary Becker essentially does do that. There is that daughter board that Ed set up for it, where you plug it in and you get standard joystick ports. It doesn't give you an edge connector, but it does cover a lot of it. Yeah, and the thing is, how many of those have been sold? I mean, they're not exactly going out the door so fast as what you think. Again, it's a small market. I mean, I've got one. I never turn it on. You know, to me, I want the real thing.
Yeah.
So I would rather hunt on the internet to look for a CoCo 3. I'll pay $300 for it if I was desperate for one, because then I'll get the real thing.
Yeah. Yep. It on the one hand, it kills me to even consider spending that kind of money on a CoCo 3, but when you look at what it would cost to build an alternative, you're reinventing a wheel, and you're going to spend as much money. So I just have Barry Marks just says, why do all this when you can get a good emulator? Well, this was a Facebook discussion where somebody says, I want to be able to plug in real hardware. I want a CoCo 3. They're hard to find. Has anybody thought of making a hardware compatible CoCo 3 clone? You know, and so there's a lot of logistics to making it happen, and it almost sounds like at this point, if you can get a real CoCo 3 for a couple $100, it is your best bet, and then everything else can go from there. We can get Cloud9 to upgrade the RAM if it doesn't have the 512. There is, Ed Snider's working on the new Gimme replacement. I just saw something. Did you guys all see the Glenside newsletter that was just circulated recently?
Yep.
Yeah, so there was a picture in there, and I think it was something that Jim Brain is working on, but it looks like it goes in the Gimme socket, and it adds 2 megs of static RAM to the CoCo, and so it's kind of like a
the DAT's built into it too, so you don't have to do all that soldering crap.
Yeah. Yeah, so I thought that was kind of a cool. So if somebody doesn't want to sit here and cut jumpers and do stuff like that, it is just, it's a cool idea. Yeah.
Yeah. It needs to be combined with the one that Ed's doing too, like a replacement Gimme, so that you can have all that built into it too. And then also the option of extending the Gimme beyond its current capabilities.
Okay.
I think you'll find Ed's is going to do all that anyway.
Okay, Ed said he tried to call via Skype, but that the call was busy. I don't know if we're friends on Skype though, Ed. I think the group is full. Let me see if has Ed sent me a friend request. Here we go. Ed Snider. Let me accept your friend request. All right. So here's what we might need to do, guys. Let me see what I can do to CoCoTALK real quick. I'm gonna have to kick somebody out of CoCoTALK. So let me find who I can kick now. Who's not?
Well, I've got to run off in about. I've got to run off for 5-10 minutes. So I don't know if I can be kicked off in
no,
one.
No.
I'm talking about the group.
It's not.
Yeah, it's 24 users currently logged into the group, not the active callers.
Oh, okay, yep.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to disappear for.
No, that's okay. I'm going to add Ed Snider right now. Hold on. I just kicked Paul Thayer out. So so we're gonna have to fix this in the future. Okay. So Ed, I just added you to the group. Okay, Ed's in. All right, boom. Ed Snider, can you hear us? I see his smiling face. Now we just have to wait to see if we can hear his voice. Yeah. And then so Grant says, what about the CoCo 4 project? Yeah. So at the end of the day, what's the most cost-effective way to get a CoCo? I think it's the Raspberry Pi. You can either run emulations on your PC, or you get the Raspberry Pi and you run the CoCo Pi with MAME. And for the Raspberry Pi will run just about everything, and you can get the whole system for under $100. It's a CoCo 1, it's a CoCo 2, it's a CoCo 3. You can plug it in via HDMI to a modern television. You can use wireless keyboards and mice. You can use wireless joysticks like Bluetooth gamepads. CoCo Pi, if you want a CoCo 3 and you don't need to, if you don't need the hardware peripheral attachments, that's probably the most cost-effective way to get it. And it connects to modern technology, Yep. Frickin' Wi-Fi. It's got Wi-Fi built in. You can connect it to drive wire. A lot of things you can do with that.
Frickin' Wi-Fi. It's got Wi-Fi built.
Ed, you've joined us.
Right there. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Ed. How are you?
I'm doing good. How about you?
Hey, it's great to have you on the call.
Good. I'm finally on here.
We talk about Ed Snider quite a bit. Ed Snider chats with us quite a bit. Now we can actually have a conversation.
Hey.
And Sockmaster just joined in the chat too.
Yeah, Sockmaster joined us in the chat. Hello, Sockmaster. Awesome. Yeah, so it's kind of cool. Yeah, Travis Pope says, Ed has joined. It's a historic moment. Yeah, so it's a cool thing to ask yourselves, and it almost seems like if somebody wants one, they're probably going to have to build their own. I would think is the way to go. And currently, people are building, like we say, the CoCo FPGA is being built, the CoCo on a chip, Roger Taylor's Nano things being built. So there are alternatives, and I think this guy wanted something he could plug in hardware to. So.
I was going to ask a question. Do people think that the CoCo 3 is rare because people are hoarding them and don't want to get rid of them, or is it just that there's so few of them out there compared to a CoCo 1 and 2?
Hey, Wayne's here. La. Do we see what is our measurement of the term rare? I would have to say maybe it's based on how often you see them on eBay or you don't see them on eBay. You know.
There were plenty 15 years ago.
Yeah. Matter of fact, that's an interesting curiosity point. I'm going to go to eBay right now and just try to pull it up.
And Ed, just to verify with you while he's looking that up, the gimme replacement that you're doing with the FPGA, does that support the 2 meg RAM built right into it?
No, it won't be built into it. It actually uses the motherboard RAM the way we're doing it right now. We'd have to go to a BGA type package on the FPGA in order to have enough pins to do the RAM on the upgrade as well.
Oh, okay.
So.
Yeah, because you're mentioning here, like Jim has one that actually plugs in the gimme socket and actually has the DAT stuff built onto it. So there's no soldering and soldering a 40-pin double header on your CPU and stuff.
What about those CoCo 3s on Cloud9?
Cloud9 sells them, yeah. That's true.
I have no idea how many Mark has left.
So how goes all your projects there, Ed?
All right.
They're going good, keeping me busy. You know.
I was just going to say Cloud9. I don't think Cloud9's got stock of CoCo 3s. If they just happen to get one, they'll sell one. But at least they didn't last time I looked.
Okay. Well, then I don't think they post them on the website. Okay, here's a $300 CoCo 3 on eBay right now. This one's in the box. It is 128K CoCo 3 with a fairly decent box. He is showing that the screen is working. It looks pretty clean, actually, too. It even has a dust cover and a RF adapter. Okay, but this guy wants $300 for a stock CoCo 3, and it is buy it now. Now, what do they want for shipping? Fast and free shipping. Okay, so if somebody wanted one really
That's reasonable.
bad. Somebody wanted one really bad. Here it is, and it's in the box with a dust cover. It's got to be worth something.
Well, if I didn't have my own CoCo 3, I'd be buying it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually very reasonable. That's the cheapest I've seen.
So, but when you go to look for Tandy Color computers on eBay, you're going to see a bunch of CoCo 1 and 2s. And CoCo 1 and 2s, like here's a CoCo 2 starting off at $29 and a buy it now for $40. This almost looks like it's got the gray keyboard on it. This looks like an abomination. This is a CoCo 2 with a CoCo 1 keyboard.
It's a retro CoCo 2.
It's a zombie apocalypse is what that is.
Yeah, that's wild. But it has a book. It's got a serial. What's the serial number on that Coco? Serial number 0129. It's a 26-327 64K Coco. So look at this. You can buy this now for $40, and there's $13 shipping. So for less than $50, you can get a fully loaded Coco 2. These are pretty common, you know, and so I think this is where they're saying that Coco 3s are rare, right? When you start looking through eBay here, here's a Coco 2 64K with Hitachi CPU added to it for $50. Color Computer 2s. Yeah, Color Computer 2s are fairly common on eBay, and I think the Coco 3s are less common on eBay. So I think that's what they're basing that term rare on, you know? Like if I just do a search on eBay for Color Computer 3, let's see what we come up with. All right.
By the way, on Cloud9, it doesn't say that they're out of stock, but it doesn't say they have how many they got. So I don't know.
Here's another Color Computer 3 for $269.99 on eBay. But yeah, there's not a lot of Coco 3s showing up on eBay right now. You're lucky to find about one per week on eBay for the Coco 3s. I stopped looking every day because I have a problem. But historically, I've seen less of them. I actually kind of like this Coco 2 with the Coco 1 keyboard. Now see. Here's a multi-pack for $119 and buy it now. These are somewhat rare too on eBay, multi-pack interfaces.
Yep.
Yep. And that's a decent price. Now they want another $17 in shipping, so for about $130. What's the part number on this guy here? This is the 26-3124. I don't know if this one has the ability to run on a Coco 3 without the PAL chip.
That's the newer one. It doesn't have the chip. It has you do the dead bug on it, or it has to be the A version.
Oh, okay.
So the 3024 is swap the PAL.
Okay. But I know a lot of people are looking for multi-packs, and of course we know we have the mini pack that Ed Snider has, but if you want a real multi-pack, these are also somewhat rare items. And they typically go for more than $100 once they're finally sold. Yeah, not a lot of Coco 3s on eBay right now, so I guess that's kind of driving that question, driving that idea of these things being rare, you know? So, Ed, since we have you here, we were going to show off your media player. And okay. I don't know if you have the ability to do a screen share and show anything from your end, or should I just pull up the video that you posted on Facebook recently?
Why don't you pull it up? I'm still kind of getting used to Skype here. I haven't really used it much before.
All right. Well, we're glad to have you. We're definitely glad to have you. Let me find that. Oh, yeah, and Wayne. Hello, Wayne Campbell's here in the chat. Good to see you. Wayne mentioned, I didn't post anything in the mailing list today. I forgot, but I don't know. I sometimes feel like nobody reads anything I put in the mailing list anyways. All right, let's switch over to the Facebook page. Now I have to try to share audio. I don't know. Do you guys need to hear the audio for this? I think when I share audio, it sometimes makes my microphone sound less clear. Can you see the screen?
Yeah.
All right. Oh, I'm on the wrong page. Hold on. I'm on my page. I need to go to the Facebook. I need to go to the CoCo page. Not the podcast, the TR-Sadie Color Computer Group. Here we go. There we go. All right. So, what were some of the discussions happening this week on Facebook? Well, I want to get to Simon Jonason's media player too, but we have Ed here. Let's find Ed's video. There's Simon's video. More Simon's video. Here's Ed Snider. Here's one here. The CoCo SDC media player PSG move. Is that a good one, Ed, or is it the one with the dancing girls that I should be pulling up?
Well, there's like 3 from last week.
All right, let's try this one first and see how it goes. Okay, this is turned into a YouTube video.
So yet another format added to the CoCo SDC media player. This will let you play converted
Can you guys hear it?
YM files if you have a CoCo PSG. And
Wow. That synth sounds really good.
so it works pretty good, and there are a ton of YM files out there that we can convert.
These are like Yamaha
to, play on
synthesizer
this.
songs?
Yeah, they are the Atari ST.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that's cool.
So yeah, we'll be able to build quite a library
That's
of all this kind of stuff.
How much CPU does this take to play this kind of music?
Very little.
Oh, this is Take On Me. I can name that tune in 3 notes. I used to love listening to stuff like this as a kid. Anytime I could hear electronic music on a computer, I was blown away by it.
And I'm just using the break key to back out of these rather than playing the whole thing, because some of them are pretty long. But,
Wayne, you should be able to join us in chat.
Better.
Wayne's still in the... Can you guys check to see if Wayne Campbell's still in the CoCoTALK group?
I don't see him listed. I think he removed himself last week.
Alright, I'm going to remove Alan Huffman for right now. He hasn't been on in a while. We'll add him back later. It's like I'm trying... It's hard to... Just added you, Wayne. There's a question that Bruce Moore wants to know. Can this be called from basic, Ed?
It'll be able to be used from basic, most of it.
That's pretty cool. It sounds really good. I need to find the one with the dancing girls, because that one's awesome. You got to find it in here.
I think you might overtake the C64 yet.
There we go.
If you keep going down, there was 2 other ones I put in there this week. One shows the videos.
Here we go.
Okay, I just added a new there's that mode to the media player. It is
Simon's in the chat too. Hey, Simon.
RG6 video, P mode 4 and other words. And
this is P mode 4, huh?
Now too, so gets rid of that annoying.
That's
tearing.
super
So
smooth.
let's take a look.
Karen says you're gonna have a hard time beating the Sid. Hey, Wayne.
Hi. I think I'm there.
This is an incredible video, Ed. What was the source for this originally? This is so smooth and fluid, man.
Yeah, I finally
Never
have
imagined
double
seeing a Coco
buffering
do
work
this.
in.
Ed, does it support artifact colors too, or is it strictly black and white at this point?
Well, I'm using the CoCo VGA there, and it's not showing any artifact. It would be showing some artifacts, but they don't really show up as much in a video.
That's amazing.
Was this a 639 optimized one or a 6809?
This requires a 6309 to get this. It's 23 frames per second.
Pretty cool.
I'm going to stop that audio sharing because I think it's causing some of us to break up. All right, that's cool though. That is super cool, man.
Really cool.
The frame rate of this. I'm going to mute the sound too, so we can sit here and continue to watch it. But I don't want the sound stepping on us. Absolutely impressive. Never would I have imagined seeing full motion video on a CoCo this smooth and this fluid. You know?
Well, that's mostly thanks to the CoCo SDC supplying a lot of data quickly.
And that's that new stream mode he added?
What's that?
Is that using the new stream mode he added?
Yep, that's using the stream command, yep. Which just continues to present 512 byte sectors to the CPU either until the end of the file or until you abort the command.
So basically, you just specify a file for it. You tell it you start streaming, and then it's up to the program to read the stuff off of the SDC and just do whatever sound, graphics.
Yep, you tell it to stream the file and what sector to start at, and then it'll keep presenting the data in order at the data port. And you do have to poll in between sectors, so it's a little tricky keeping the timing right in that, depending on what you're actually streaming over and how quickly. But yeah, that stream command makes it a whole lot easier than, calling up an individual sector at a time.
Yeah, I'd imagine. What kind of throughput are you getting using the streaming command? Like how many K per second?
Well, the SDC can actually go a little bit faster than you can pull it off with at 0.89 megahertz. So this right here is about 150 K per second that you're seeing. Now,
and that's using 609 with a TFM command, I'm presuming.
No, it is using. It's not using TFM. It is using a 6309. I'm using copying using the Q register, which is faster.
Oh, so you're doing 4 bytes at a time?
Yeah, 4 bytes at a time. And also the 6309 is a little faster in general. But
any hope for color, a bit more than 1 bit?
Well, there's the SG24 video conversion stuff that I've been working with Chris Martin on. And it doesn't have the resolution, of course, but it is color. Now,
and then John Linville did one too for the CoCo 3 back, which probably would work on this too if it got rewritten for the streaming.
Yeah, I was just going to say, so far I've only been working with the CoCo 2 at 0.89 megahertz. If I start doing some stuff on the CoCo 3, we'll have double the CPU speed, so we can get a higher data rate, and we'll have the other color modes that we can work with. Yeah.
So this kind of, in my mind now, opens up a question. We've talked about future game development and to cart or not to cart. I would imagine this data, if you want to have a decent amount of data now, cartridge is kind of not a good option if you want to have video, streaming video. And it almost sounds like this requires the CoCo SDC to work now too, right?
Yep, you do need an SDC. And,
okay.
Well, you can get a lot of information on a cart nowadays, but for instance, that Bad Apple video is about 34 megabytes. So
Okay.
and with the SDC, we're limited to a 2 gigabyte file size that we could stream. So pretty much unlimited.
That's
using
pretty
that.
cool. All right. Hey, Simon has just joined us. The Madman is here as well. We're gonna get to some of your music in a bit too, Simon. We're talking about all kinds of media stuff. Very cool though. Very cool. I'm like a kid in a candy store when I see audio visual stuff on the CoCo. You know, when you can see cool video and you can see and you hear music and stuff like that. It's pretty awesome.
I'm just waiting for the Dragon's Lair port.
Yeah, right.
Or Space Ace.
Yeah, that is pretty darn cool, I gotta say. So the sound chip that you're working on, Ed, it's a little bit different than the one that John Linville's doing.
Yep, it's I'm using the Yamaha YM2149, which I believe was in the Atari ST and a few other machines.
Okay.
But also, it's a larger chip. I think he wanted something compact.
Sure, sure.
But,
To fit in a cartridge.
mhm.
So his is, I think, based off of a Texas Instruments chip, a TI chip, or is?
Yes.
Okay.
It's
You still there, Simon? You broke up on us. We may have lost Simon. Is everybody else still on the call? The whole call went quiet for a minute there. Oh. You guys back? I lost you for a second.
Yep.
Okay.
Still here?
I'm here.
I'm here.
Very cool stuff. Very, very
Hi,
cool
Simon.
stuff. It's Fedor's neighbor. You guys can see each other through your windows, can't you?
Almost. Well, it's about an hour drive.
Okay.
Pretty amazingly close by,
Yeah.
given how rare European cocos are.
Right, right. You talk about rare CoCo 3s in the U.S. I think CoCos in general are rare over there, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, Richard was signing off. Take care, Richard.
So
That's cool stuff.
what's-
So, go ahead, Nick. Sorry.
Ed, I was just wondering what the estimated sell price will be for the sound cartridge.
Well, some of it depends on what the case will be. Jan Strong was going to do cases for those. And without whatever that is, plus probably, I guess altogether it's going to be $50 or $60.
That's not bad. Not bad at all. It's nice to know that we have music options for the CoCo. I think some of the challenges are going to be is, you know, who's going to do the developing and which one are they going to develop for? You know, we had Simon. Simon's here, so Simon's definitely showing us some demos on one of them, and Ed's doing some demos too. So that's pretty cool. I think there's so many technology options available right now. It's really up to the creators to decide what they want to do with them. You know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But it's nice to have options. It's to go from 35 years to never having a sound chip to now having many sound chips to choose from. It's a terrible problem to have, right?
Yeah.
It's a luxury problem to have.
Just have to make one super sound card that has them all. That's all.
Yeah.
Well,
One
we've
card
really
to
only
rule them
got
all.
the one sound chip. It's only the one sound chip. It's just 3 or 4 variants of the board, really. I mean, each of those sound chips in each of those cards is essentially the same style sound chip. It's the same architecture.
Well, I beg to differ, Nick, because the AY chip has got like 14 registers. Not talking about the input register, just 14 sound registers, and it's got envelope control. The SN chip is just 3 square wave generators, 1 noise generator, and an attenuator for each channel. It's got no waveform shaping at all. You have to do it yourself via volume.
Doesn't it support the ADM, the envelopes of the YM at all, or the GI for that matter?
No,
So
the SN chip, you have to do it yourself.
Oh, that's very primitive, that one there, then.
Yes, it's basically 3 square wave generators and 1 noise generator. And it's got 8 registers.
Okay.
And to boot, it's little Indian.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, that's...
But it's a small dip, and it costs less, so, you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a 16-pin dip, and it probably costs about 20 cents.
Would you like fries with that?
Yes. Double.
That may be like somebody selling Coco software. You can make 10s of 20s of cents. You can afford the new chip.
Right. So, Simon, I'm going to switch over and show one of your videos that you recently posted to the Facebook channel here for just a second. Let me go back to Facebook. I'm going to share audio again, which might cause some sound quality issues here, but we'll go ahead and bring this up. That is music to my ears. Hearing the CoCo play music.
Which sound card is that?
This is John Linville's.
Yeah, this is the 3 square wave generator.
Wow. Not bad. On a CoCo 1, no less.
What that reminds me of is Guardian Legend on the NES.
That actually is a Star.
That sounds great. That is something. That is something that we're able to get this kind of sound out of our CoCos.
Yeah, but that's 3 square wave generators. There's no envelope control on it at all at the moment, and I tell you what, that is 128 bytes of code.
Wow.
But
I am not a sound expert, but I had a best friend who's passed away now, who used to play games on his 286 and his 386, and everything I've been listening to sounds comparable to everything that was in those games.
Wow.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same kind of deal. Same kind of deal, I just posted the code for that. If anyone wants to look in the file section on Facebook, the code, the XM file that has been converted is also in there, so you can see what I had based it on from a PC.
How big was the XM file?
Yeah, well, how big is the XM file? It's actually an IT file at the moment, but I can convert it to XM. It's not massive. The tune is actually taken from a MIDI file from a C64. It's Star Pause. Don't know if you know it. So it's a Rob Hubbard tune.
It sounds great. That was the same chip that was in the Tandy 1000, right? The one that's on John Linville's cartridge?
Yes.
Right. So there's definitely a possibility to add 3-voice music to the CoCo 3 versions of the Sierra games. That's a possibility, right?
I haven't added the last channel yet, which is the noise channel, which could potentially give you percussion.
Right.
So would it be hardware possibly wise to make a cartridge with both the Texas Instrument, the SN7649, and the Yamaha chip?
I think Jim was working on doing that, wasn't he?
Be nice to have both, as long as the addressing ranges don't conflict.
Personally, I'll go for the FM chips.
Pardon, Nick?
Personally, I'd go for the FM chips.
Yeah, you go for the Yamaha chips, yeah.
The Yamaha, but not the one that Ed's used. Ed's is based on the General Instruments chip, which is similar to that TI one. It's the square waves and that. The FM synthesis chips though sound a lot better.
Yeah.
Yeah, rather than make one with like two different sound chips on it, that probably would be, because I mean at that point the cost, I don't think would be much different.
So you're talking more like an ad-lib card at this point, then, right?
Yeah, but that's what the ad-lib cards used to use.
Yeah. And even now, when you listen to ad-lib, now it's such a dated sound. I think that's the same chip that the Sega Genesis used as well. It's a dated sound, but it's a great sound for the CoCo. I mean, we were kind of looking for that dated sound, anyways. It's period appropriate.
For music, it sounds better.
Yes.
Yeah.
No
and
doubt.
CPU, it's better too.
Yeah. That's awesome. Karen's with us. Hey, Karen, welcome back.
Hello.
We have all kinds of people here doing all kinds of cool projects that we get to talk about. So we've definitely showed off some of Ed's work with his media player, which is pretty damn cool. Showing off a little bit of Simon's work with his music player, which is really nice too. You want us to switch over and show some of the Dunjunz blog and show some of the project you're working on right now for your Dunjunz port, Karen?
Yeah, I don't have the ability to share anything.
Yeah, that's fine. I will do that. I have the power. All right. So we are going to switch over once again. I'm going to go back to full screen. Do any of your videos have sound, or are they all quiet right now? So I need to know if I need to do sound sharing as well.
I think the very last one might be showing off sound.
Okay.
So if I have a look myself.
Okay, that's fine. All right, I've got it up on the screen. And by the way, I have a link to Ed. Do you have a general link where people can watch those videos, or are they on your YouTube channel, Ed? Your demos?
You know, I haven't put them up yet. Yeah.
No, I'll make sure I'll find a link to your YouTube channel, and I'll update the description of this video, so I can point people to see those videos. So this is Karen's blog for a project he's working on now, Dungeon, and maybe we can hear it best from the source's mouth. But it's definitely a very cool project. I've seen some of the videos. Oh wait, that's Xroar. Let's go over to Dunjunz. Here's Dunjunz. Okay, here is Dunjunz, and this is the original BBC Micro version. I did read a lot of this blog. It's a game that's similar to Gauntlet in the fact you have 4 players, but the difference is each player's got their own scrolling window to the game, so you don't have to be in the same space at the same time, which is very cool. Gauntlet is probably one of my favorite games, one of my favorite arcade-style games. So here was some of the original versions, and then here is some of the work you're doing here to convert the tiles to CoCo graphics. Or Dragon, either way.
Yeah, Dragon primarily for me, but
right.
If it works on one, it's probably going to work on the other.
Right. So here's one of our videos here. Let me make this video bigger, and we'll look at some of this. This is a scrolling demo here.
Yeah, very very early one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's such a shame that we've got such a small color palette to work with,
It's an interesting challenge.
Yes, and usually none of these combinations are completely easy on the eyes either.
Might have to do a patch for it afterwards using CoCo. If you have a CoCo 3 running, you can change the palettes a little bit to make it a bit more palatable.
I completely intended to do that, yes.
Right.
but haven't yet. I am supporting the NTSC artifacted colours set, but I haven't done CoCo 3 yet.
Are you not supporting PAL artifacts yet?
No. Mostly because I don't know how to. I don't have a way of figuring out how they get generated, and I don't have a good CRT display here to watch them on.
We'll have to have a discussion about that.
I remember as a kid knocking together little programs that would allow you to put like a line after line of Semigraphics 24 and seeing which colours led into each other on the CRT.
Oh wow!
You can actually get 44 colours out of it.
In some of these later videos, looks like you've got the speed running a heck of a lot faster now.
Yeah, it. If you read through all the text, you can see what I was going through there. But
yeah,
several years later, the speed picked up and it started to look more like a game.
Yeah, great frame rate there. And here's a newer one here. Let's take a look at. Oh yeah, look at that. Great frame rate. That looks really good.
A few seconds till I see the video because I'm watching the video on YouTube.
Ah, yes. So, and this is 4-player simultaneous cooperative too, which is pretty nice.
That was always the attraction of the game on the BBC Micro. That 4 of us would be gathered around just a keyboard in that case, all playing at once.
I do like the design of it where the 4 sub-screens are independent of each other too, because that was one thing that always bugged me about playing Gauntlet even in the arcades, is that you had to have everybody hoarded on the same screen. So this is a bit more freeform. Yeah.
That was a nice feature of the older style gaming. If you wanted to play with a friend, that friend had to be there. So it was a little bit more personal. Multiplayer gaming was more personal because we did not have the internet or anything else to do online gaming, so.
Yeah, except for a few modem-based games like chess and checkers and P51 and a couple of others, I think like Othello and stuff, there wasn't that much, besides maybe shared adventure games or something.
Right. If you look at a game like Dino Wars was designed to require 2 players. You really couldn't play by yourself unless you just wanted to chew up a dinosaur that didn't move, There were a few games that were really, centered around having another person there. What was one of the cool co-op games? Cashman was a pretty cool co-op game, for the CoCo. We had 2 people playing at the same time. Yeah. No, this looks bloody brilliant. Looks really good.
Probably for that same reason. It's always good when multiple people can be playing together, isn't it?
Yeah, I find that more personable than doing the network thing where you just hear each other in headphones. I mean, this way you can actually kick the guy when he does something stupid.
That looks really good. Oh, now we have a PAL and NTSC option here. Let's take a look. It looks really good. Oh, now you get to pick your option screens here. You get to pick who you want to be.
And your sound on off.
Sound is here now too. There we go. You hear the arrows firing. Yeah.
Very basic, but
it works. It suits the game well.
I'll probably post the sound routine separately because it is 2 channels being mixed and they do have separate volume control, I suppose. Thinking about the previous discussion, I shouldn't really call it envelope as it's not adjusted automatically over time.
You get the food. Oh, wow, that was cool. Now this would be kind of cool. I don't know, did the original game have any speech in it?
No, not on the Beeb.
Okay. This would be kind of cool to add some like speech sound pack stuff where you can get the voice,
It would, and you get better sound effects too.
Elf shot the food.
Please kick Elf.
Oh, here we go. Here's some NTSC artifacting. Looks good. Looks good.
No video of that yet.
And then here's a download if somebody wants to download it, which I have just not had 5 minutes to sit down and work on anything on the CoCo side of stuff recently. But I'm looking forward to trying this. I want to try it on the real CoCo, and I want to try it on my Dragon. I haven't taken my Dragon out of the box yet, but I want to try it out on the Dragon.
There's a good first game for you to try on it.
Yeah. This will be my first Dragon game.
So, picking up getting a keyboard layout that worked for the CoCo took a while, but I did find one, and it does play on the CoCo.
That's awesome. How long have you been working on the project?
Depends how you measure it. You could say that I say this in the blog, I suppose, that shortly after first seeing the game in presumably 1987 or something, I did start writing something for the Dragon.
Okay.
But I lost that, and it wasn't very good because I was very young. This one, a few years, as in the first video you showed, that was several years ago.
Okay.
And it's only in the last few months that Stuart Orchard actually encouraged me to pick it up again.
Okay.
I thought, well, yeah, all right. Did, and here we are.
Yeah, your blog's been going back to, it looks like April 10th. So you've got at least a good couple months of blogging on it now, too.
Yeah, that was inspired by him as well. He's doing, have you seen his project? I'm just going to advertise somebody else's thing here.
That's fine.
Worth seeing. His Return of the Beast project, 360-degree background scrolling and stuff, shooting enemies.
What
very
platform
cool.
is that on?
Dragon at the moment, I think.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah, I definitely want to see that. See if you can post a link in the Skype chat and I'll pull it up.
Yeah,
I don't think I've heard of that one either.
You got me intrigued. 360-degree scrolling.
Let me find. So it's been posted in the World of Dragon forums. So I'm just looking in there.
Okay. I'm gonna have to get into more Dragon stuff now too, as I start to fire up my Dragon system.
I'm interested to see what your take is on the Dragon joystick, since they were a bit different than the CoCos.
Yeah, I have a pair. They're interesting.
Found it.
Okay, here we go. World
On the first page.
Return to the Beast. Now, is this his blog or?
The Return of the Beast blogspot. Yeah, that's his.
Let me find a link to that. Okay, here we go. Return to the Beast blogspot. Let's pull that up. All right. All right, let me share this over now too, where you guys can see this. This looks pretty cool too. Today is the day of looking at projects. I love it. Let me slide this over. Switch screens.
I'm not sure if there's any videos on there, so
that's okay. We'll look at the artwork there.
Trying it out might be the best.
Okay, here's the character data for the spaceship here. Looks like it can rotate pretty well. Okay, here is... Oh, you know what? I think for some reason, I think I might have saw this somewhere. Yeah, I remember like looking at all these color choices here. I do remember seeing some of this. I wasn't sure who to... Okay. Looking at all the different colors. Let's see if we have any more pictures of... Pretty detailed when we get into some of the assembly code and pixel shifting. That's pretty interesting. If somebody's into learning how to do that kind of stuff. Okay, that's a pretty cool screen there. Wow.
I think that's more of a map screen.
Yeah, there's a lot of pixels squeezed in there. That looks pretty tight.
You got to see it in action, really. Far more impressive than anything I've ever done.
Okay. Is there a download for it? Because I'll bring it up.
Yes, on the World of Dragon forum page.
All right, we'll go back.
First post.
All right, we're going back. Where did it go? Maybe I have to go back here. There we go. World of Dragon. Okay, robt.zip. All right, found it. Now, does this require a Dragon computer to run on?
Or emulator?
Okay.
Xroar should work then.
It should.
I don't currently have Dragon ROMs set up anywhere. Could I run it as a CoCo, or do I need to get some Dragon ROMs to make this work?
Good question. I can quickly try it and see.
Do you know anybody
does he have an
first-hand
attract
knowledge?
mode in it? Does he have an attract mode in it? Because then that should work on the CoCo.
Yeah, I'll try it in MAME. I gotta find my thing. I think I might have it in MAME. Let's see. Okay. It's okay. There's a bin file in it. What is it? Is VDK? What is that? Is that the disk?
Yeah, that's a disk image format. Ooh.
Will that VDK load into Xroar?
Yes, if you have the Dragon ROMs.
Yeah. So I'll get that real quick. I'm gonna go ahead and load up the. I'm gonna go ahead and get the Dragon ROMs real quick. So we'll switch back. All right. Bear with me for just a second here, people. I do have Xroar running. Actually, let me check my MAME installation right now, see if I have it in MAME.
Yeah, and to be honest, the two machines are similar enough. I think it's just like, keyboard mappings that are different. So if it's got a attract mode or something, it might just run even on the CoCo 1.2 emulation.
Steve Bamford said that the ROM locations are different, but if you write all your own routines and don't read the keyboard, basically it'll just work.
Okay. I don't currently have the Dragon ROMs, but
Do
that can be fixed.
Do you want the ROMs? I've got them on my site right now.
I can get them from the archive too. Either way, 6 of one, 7 of the other.
So if you want them, you can just download them right now.
All right, if you want to put the link out there, I'll grab them.
Yeah, 1 moment.
This would be cool to look at. We might as well download. We might as well download Dunjunz too. Once I get my Dragon up here, we'll look at Dunjunz on the screen.
I've just given it a go. It does fire up in the CoCo. You have to press / to start instead of space. And in theory, minus and dot should be left and right. Which doesn't really work, but...
Okay, which ones are the ROMs do I want there? Are they the D32 and the D32 V1, D64-1, D64 Tano?
Yeah,
you can get by with D32.
Yeah, he needs a disk ROM as well, doesn't he?
Yeah, so you'll want...
D plus 49B.
That'll do, yeah.
All right, so I'm getting D32 ROM. I want... What else do I want?
D plus 49B. Or D plus 50, which is the disk ROM.
Okay, can they be saved as ROM files? They don't have to be zip files?
Yeah, just save them as ROM files.
In fact, it won't work as zip files. Xroar doesn't unpack zips. Oh, but you're playing this in MAME, aren't you? So
I was going to stick him in MAME, but I have Xroar too, so I just need a minute to find where I have Xroar saved. I rebuilt my whole computer, so I don't have all my shortcuts recreated just yet. Here we go. I found him. So one of them is called D32 ROM.
Yeah, D32.ROM will be extended basic.
And there's a D32 V1. Do I need that one?
Oh, I don't know what that is.
There's a D64_1 ROM. D64 Tano ROM.
That'd be probably the US version.
All right. And then you said the D plus 49B?
Yeah, that's the disk ROM.
All right, let's see if I can get this going here.
Can Ciaran just share the he's got it running on his already, so can he share the screen?
Sadly, the Linux Skype client does not do screen shares. At least not in groups.
All right, so on let's see. Okay, I've got DOS plus press any key. Okay, DOS plus 49B, Dragon Data Limited, Basic Interpreter by Microsoft.
Good. Sounds like you're away.
All right, so let's see if we can get this puppy loaded here. Let's go back to the screen sharing. All right, so now I need to load this from a disk.
Yeah, you need some out of disk.
We're getting here. Okay, so it's to rotb.vdk.
Yeah.
All right. And is it still load M?
Yeah, it's the same.
You guys spell load M properly, though, right?
No, it's run to run something, or just load.
Load? Even if it's binary?
Yeah.
And then it's run to run it?
No, sorry. Run with a file name to run it, or load and then exec to load and run.
Okay, Return of the Beast, a demo for the Dragon 32. Wow. Something in... Ooh, wow. I think I need to share audio again. Am I still sharing audio?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Nice. Most impressive.
What do you need a sound chip for again?
Alright, space or fire to start. Oh, wow, look at this. Look how smooth that is. Wow, look at the rotation, too. Oh, man, this is on a... Well, I'm playing it very well. That is incredible. Can you thrust? Okay, can't increase my speed. This is great. 60 degrees scrolling. That's quite impressive.
And it only needs 32K, not 64, correct?
Yeah, I think so.
The sound effects are quite good. I like it. Very smooth mask sprite character, you know? It's like pixel perfect. I like it. All right. Let's take a look at Dunjunz now, too. That's cool. That's very cool.
Yep.
Let's pull up Dunjunz.
It's very good. Who needs a sound chip?
Yeah, right.
Ciaran did.
Wow.
Ciaran was he not using a version of Sid for that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, he composed the music. That's the impressive bit.
Yeah. Well, we all know. Yeah, you know what he's like.
Okay, so is
Yeah.
Dunjunz Beta 1 the one I should be downloading right now, Ciaran?
I think there's a beta 2. If you go back to the top and look at the navigation, there is a link to a sort of more downloady page.
Navigation. Where now? Okay, I'm on the Dunjunz page right now, though. Right?
Is there not a separate? You might be under. Sorry, it's my menu and it looks awful, doesn't it? But there should be a separate link to /Dunjunz in.
Wave. Okay, CoCo disk image beta 2.1.
Oh, there you go.
There we go. Okay. Let's see if we can find that within ourselves now. Oh, crikeys. My whole computer system, where I have everything stored right now. Where did I just save this file? Okay, Dunjunz Beta 2.1. Here we go. Did I not load the bloody file? Okay, Dunjunz-Beta 2.1.dsk. That's the one I should be getting, right?
Did you grab the CoCo version or the Dragon version?
For the CoCo. I haven't actually built a disk version for the Dragon yet.
Okay, I'll switch my machine over to CoCo then. I mean, should that make a difference on how it's able to read the disk?
Yeah, different disk formats.
Ah, okay. Well, this one I know how to do. I know how to do a load M in an exec here.
I think you've covered that in your basic series.
I've done this a time or two. Hey, Davey Mitchell's here. Hello, Davey. All right, Dunjunz. Let's take a look at Dunjunz. Okay. Original BBC Micro and Electron versions. Okay, thanks to all the World of Dragon forum for feedback. Very cool. Special thanks to Stuart Orchard, super alpha tester. Okay, what's the key now? Slash, you say?
Oh, any key at that screen.
NTSC. Enter to continue. Press enter if screen is red. Ooh, we even have artifacts. Okay, sound on is S for on. Okay, let's be a ranger. Press space to play. Ooh, okay. What do I press now?
Right. CoCo version. I believe that is 2W, 3, 4, and 5, possibly fire and 1 magic for ranger.
Okay.
Is that working?
Okay, yes. Okay, so 3 and 4 are left and right. 2 and W are up and down. And then you say space for fire?
No, 5, I think, is fire.
Yes, it is.
There you go.
Okay.
And 1 is magic.
Okay. Save keys to open doors. Oh,
The reason for that quite ridiculous keyboard layout is because 2 of the players are on joystick, and the joystick fire buttons interfere with quite a lot of the keyboard.
Yes.
Ah. So I should really be playing this with a joystick.
You would be playing the barbarian or the fighter with joysticks.
Okay, and right now there's no collision detection on the enemies?
There is, but it's a bit loose. But that's a bit like the original, so I'm not too fussed.
Okay. It's very fluid, though. Extremely fluid. The frame rates are very good. I like it. Oh, I just shot somebody.
And Steve should know he plays a lot of video games.
I like it a lot. This is cool. This is very cool. Super.
And in theory, it should come into its own with multiple people.
Yeah, yeah. That's quite impressive.
It'd be the only 4 simultaneous player game for the CoCo 1 and 2 I think I know of, and I think only Gauntlet 2 on the CoCo 3 did 4.
Yeah, I don't know of any Dragon games that do more than a couple simultaneous.
Yeah, there's a few that did 3, like a Gauntlet. The original Gauntlet had 1 on keyboard, 2 on joysticks, and Rampage, of course, has 3, same situation. But I don't think, except for Gauntlet 2 in this one, that's the only 2 I've ever seen try to jam 4 people on one CoCo simultaneously. Or Dragon.
That's quite impressive. So, Ciaran, we've been having a lot of discussions about emulators over the past 14 weeks we've been doing this show, you know, and I know it's sometimes it's a hot topic, sometimes it's a sensitive topic, and we're lucky enough to have you on the call right now. And are you the sole creator of Xroar, or have other people worked on it with you?
No, it's mostly me.
Okay.
I've had 1 or 2 contributions from outside,
Mm-hmm.
hopefully acknowledged where possible in the changelog, but mostly me. I use it to, well, I mean, there's a long history behind it, but most of what I use it for now is for recording the things I find out, like investigating the hardware. Got me logic analyzers, got me scopes. It's nice to have a hobby, eh?
Yeah. I mean, I started using it quite a bit in a lot of my videos. I started doing videos in VCC only because it was very easy to figure out how to use. And it wasn't until I realized that the artifact colors were not quite what they wanted to be. And so my next thing I started using, and I still use quite a bit, is Xroar. And I find for CoCo 1 and 2 stuff, it's a great go-to emulator. The artifact colors are fantastic. The compatibility is pretty spot on. I haven't found too many things that don't run in it. I think the only challenge I had was getting cartridges to work in it. But as far as disk-based stuff, there was very few things I think wouldn't run in Xroar. So for CoCo 1 and 2 stuff, it's a damn good emulator. And I'm sure I'm not the only person who feels fondly about it. I think it's a great product. And you know, so thank you for doing that and for your continued work on that, because it's been a great tool for me to use.
Oh, it's nice of you to say. The artifacting colors, as I think you pointed out last time, I started off by just ripping off the colors from MAME, because MAME did a pretty good job.
Mm-hmm.
And then my workplace did. For a while I knew that there was a way to do it better. And my workplace did a series of lectures on finite impulse response filters. And while I'm far too stupid to actually be able to create my own filters, it gave me enough understanding of how they work to write some code to implement one. And so the low-pass filtering that happens before the NTSC decode in Xroar now is pretty mathematically correct-ish. So it looks better.
Yeah, it definitely does. It definitely does. And that's a hallmark feature of the US CoCo is those artifact colors, the red and blue colors. I mean, we've kind of grow to love and depend on them, you know, for our games and everything else. So
yeah, it's you do get a much better color set there. Artificially sort of forced, isn't it, though? Without a bit of extra circuitry, you would be getting green and purple. Is that right? But you've got something that forces the VDG to output a different sort of color burst signal. I think that's right.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a little bit beyond me. But when you mentioned the green and purple, that makes me think about the Apple, because the Apple actually had 2 different ways to get artifacts out of it, where you had 6 colors instead of 4, and I think green and purple were the other ones the Apple II had, right?
Yep, green and purple and orange and blue.
Wasn't there also a story in the that book on the CoCo, the colorful history of Tennis under their computer, that they reworked the inside of the CoCo, and then they lost the artifact in color, so they had to put in some noise to get it back again.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sockmaster says there is a color burst modification circuit in the color computer 1 and 2 for P mode 4 colors to be red and blue. Okay.
There's a man that would know.
Yeah, right? Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, so that Dunjunz game looks pretty cool. That's a neat little project.
Yeah. Once I've got a proper ending sequence done, I'll make that a proper full release and have at it.
Nice.
And I'll release the source as well, because it's not exactly my game. I can't claim any rights to it.
So, is the world randomly generated, or is it something that you created the map for that particular version?
No, these I have gratuitously ripped off from the original. Somebody online had reverse engineered the level format and written some Python tools to sort of deconstruct them. So I rewrote some stuff in Perl and just translated them into my format. And so they were the original levels, but they're all in RAM at once, unlike the original where each one was loaded off tape or disk.
That's cool. I wonder how hard it would be to make a level editor then.
Not too hard, although the levels as they stand are all compressed, and I've not written a compression tool to run actually on the 609 yet. So.
Is it RLE compression, like a fairly simple one, or?
It's a really trivial LZ style.
Oh, okay.
Trivial. Yeah, the trivial is a relative term.
Yeah, that's even
relative to some of them.
For me, above my head.
Right. That's very cool. So, do you what do you feel like is your take on these kind of pissing contests on whose emulator is the best, or what's your favorite emulator, and this and that and the other? Obviously, you've got a stake in your own, but there's always a lot of chatter about VCC, MAME, Xroar. How do you feel about all that controversy?
I am far too lazy to care. Use what works.
Yeah.
As I say, for me, it's Xroar exists because of personal reasons. I'm glad some other people find it useful. That's all.
Yeah. Excellent. Now you've mentioned that, or I think we asked a question earlier on about any possibility of Gimme and CoCo 3 emulation. You're saying it's possible, but no timeline or anything else like that for.
Yeah, that's basically the situation. I actually have a branch starting up as a CoCo 3 with a higher resolution. I think as I left it, I just had various colors force mapped into the old VDG colors, and anything that didn't require any gimme, whatever specific nonsense was sort of working. But as soon as anything tried to use timers or the extra IRQ triggers or anything like that, obviously it all falls down. One day there will be time, and yes, Sockmaster, I will be using your demos to to try and get it right.
The ultimate
but I don't know
gimme test, right?
Now, of course, the critical thing in emulation is to make sure that David Ladd's 20 sectors per track thing works. So does that work, Under?
Let's not go there, because I don't think Ciaran wants to cover that at the moment after his nice discussion.
Oh, I know what needs to be done. I'm interested that within a couple of weeks, given that I'm reasonably reassured about how stable Xroar tends to be. In a couple of weeks, he's found 2 ways of one crashing it and another causing data corruption. So it's quite impressive.
Or annoying, depending on your point of view.
Yeah.
Depending.
Well,
Hey, I'm sorry. I like pushing the envelope.
that's kind of like what I was telling David. He's kind of like the mini Simon Jonasson, because I think Simon had mentioned before too that he's found ways to find.
Correct. A couple of times, didn't I, Ciaran?
Yeah.
I think you may well have done. You certainly found bits that it didn't do right in terms of video synchronization and whatnot.
Yeah.
It still isn't perfect.
No, it's perfect enough.
Perfect enough. Yeah.
At least we get really funky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of look at it as like none of them are ever going to be completely perfect. They all do a pretty darn good job, and I'm happy that we have choices. You know, I'm happy that we have more than one thing to choose from, and all of them do pretty well, and some do one thing better than the other, and you can always switch between them when you need that option. You know.
On the subject, Simon, you might have actually tried this. I think you were going to. Has anyone, have you, made use of the fact that you can smooth scroll the text screen in anything? You know what I mean? You force a row preset signal through mode.
Yeah. No, the only thing I've done is text over graphics. Like bouncing it up and down. Either a graphic screen bouncing up and down or a text screen bouncing up and down. But yes, you can, like you say, using the row preset, you can actually force a smooth scroll. And actually, oh God. So Stewie actually made usage of that at some point in time on a 4 version of the game you were just playing.
Wow.
Because I had something going with Stu a couple of years ago when we made the music loader and all that. Where I showed him, look, you can actually make the screen scroll by just fuffing about with a couple of registers and not doing anything. Yeah. So he actually made use of it to scroll a P-Mode 4 screen with literally no overhead.
Wow. So even on a text screen, you can get smooth scrolling of the text.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's an internal counter that resets. Well, is reset every 12 lines, and it indexes into the VDG font. And by changing video modes to and from something, probably to graphics mode and back again, can't quite remember. There's a reset is forced. So do it at the right time, and yeah, you can smoothly bounce your text around.
So did you trigger that when it's in the horizontal blank then, or something?
Well, the first 12 lines. If I'm right, Sixty, you have to back me up here, because but the first 12 lines, the row preset is not triggered.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have to do it once on the very first character cell height.
Yeah, I mean,
basically,
you need to read the VDG doc. You need to look at the vertical timing on it. Because row preset, if you trigger it at the right time, and that's not the only trick, because you can also scroll the screen left and right, you know, and I mean, you've seen that, Sexy, in 42-byte mode. I can scroll it left and right by a byte at a time.
I've seen your CoCo bouncing left and right, yes.
Yes, and this again is just hardware trickery.
Trickery.
Well, yeah, it is trickery because you're just confusing the VDG counters. But
so I'm assuming you're saying right now you can do this in Xroar then too, right?
Yes, you can do it in Xroar.
I think most of that is reasonably accurate. It's other areas, like if you run in double speed mode for any period of time. It's not quite accurate enough yet, I think. Maybe. I can't remember.
So that is pretty cool. I'd like to see a demo on that at some point in time.
What I am intrigued about, Ciaran, is 48-byte mode.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the one Guardian uses?
That's the one. It's a lovely side effect of the way binary counters work. Because you know that the VDG clears... the SAM. You put the SAM into the right mode and the SAM clears certain bits of its video address when it gets a horizontal sync pulse. In the right mode, and because the VDG has generated more address fetches than there are actually bytes in a line, it sort of ends up clearing a set of bits where the top bit was set, and obviously that's then a 1 that's transitioning to a 0, and in a binary counter that causes the next bit up to ripple on, and you actually advance 16 bytes instead of sort of resetting to the beginning of the line as you would normally expect. So yeah, that's what Guardian does.
Right. Okay. So I got control over 42-byte mode, and I could actually scroll. If you've seen it, I made an image because I was using P-Mode 4, and the image is like 256 pixels, but I made an image that was actually 42 bytes wide, and I could scroll it backwards and forwards.
Was that the picture of your CoCo?
Yes.
Yes, I did see that. It was very cool.
I mean, it's not a smooth scroll, but if you had, it's scrolling a byte at a time, which is quite a big jump in P-Mode 4. It's like 8 pixels. But
yeah, 8 pixels.
If you had 2 screens and you shifted between them, then you can get a 4-pixel scroll, which is, or maybe 4 screens, but that's going to eat up 6 times 24K in it. It's going to eat up 24K. But yeah, potentially you could make a smooth scroll out of it.
Yeah, and I mean, to be honest, some games did use a full byte scroll and actually don't look that bad anyway if you have the speed keeping up. Like Sea Dragon, I believe, uses a full byte horizontal.
Yeah. But this is just hardware. This is just pushing. If you look at it, it's potentially built upon the fact that if you shift, which is probably the first time I broke Xroar. I think you remember it.
I remember the first time.
Yeah.
If you shift from if you shift from if you shift from a lower resolution mode to a higher resolution mode across the line, the SAM on the VDG has to count it out, so it pushes the image into the border. Do you remember that?
Yeah, it spends some time rendering double width pixels, and then you switch back to a 32-byte mode, and it's forgotten where it is. So yeah, you end up drawing into the border, but it still draws as much. I think it still draws as much right-hand border, and therefore the line length gets out of kilter. So if you did that on an actual CRT, you can push it so far, but push it further, and the horizontal sync just is in completely the wrong place, and the CRT can't keep up.
Yeah, it does. If you do it too much, I mean, you can do it maybe 1 byte, 2 bytes into the border.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, if you do it further than that, because you can actually push it as far as you want to, then it will start waving all over the place.
Sounds like you're speaking from experience.
It's kind of like we are controlling transmission. We control the horizontal.
Control the outer limits. The outer limits of the VDG.
My goodness.
To make a good effect in the game, you wouldn't want to play the game that way, I guess. But yeah, if your ship gets hit or something, you could do that to wave the screen around.
Yeah, you can. Literally, you can. You can totally just screw the screen up.
It's kind of like the later levels of Xenix there. When you get hit, it shakes the whole screen back and forth. Mind it's a CoCo 3 gimme game, but it's using a horizontal scroll register. But you could do the same effect on a CoCo 1, 2, or a Dragon.
Yeah, that'll probably be quite a nice effect, just temporarily.
little screen distortion.
Nice.
Get some sound distortion, get some video distortion going too.
I think, if I'm trying to remember, the Canyon Climber game Steve Bjork didn't that use that on the vertical? It changed the resolution to do that whole bouncing, shaking thing?
Yeah, it jumped up and down like the business 60's talking about, or Ciaran's talking about with scrolling the text screen. It's kind of the same thing. You just have to bash. You have to bash something at the right time.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Which potentially this is what Sockmaster's doing on a CoCo 3 with his bouncy ball thing. You've got to bash something at the right time.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's the ball itself is palette animation, and well, the bouncing up and down. It's bashing something at the right time. Nothing's being moved.
I seem to remember that bouncing ball was something that absolutely, definitely did not work in my CoCo 3 so far.
Oh yeah.
So yeah.
Well,
there's got to be the go-to thing you run to make sure that everything works. You know, it's like what I use to test the 64K CoCo is I'll just load up Sailor Man. You know, because if it's that game uses all the RAM, so if that game works, I know the 64K system works.
Such a good game too.
Yeah. It's good stuff. Ed, you still with us?
Yep, I'm here.
Anything on? I know you got a lot on your plate, but is there anything else you're working on that you want to share with us, hardware or software wise?
Well, I can't think of anything that wouldn't already be known right now. I mean, we have the CoCo VGA boards will be released pretty soon.
Very cool.
CoCo 2 and there's the YM board, and yeah, I'm not sure. You've probably seen it.
Well, what do you got right now that you need to unload? If anybody needs to buy like a CoCo SDC, have you got product right now that we should let people know about if they're looking to buy anything like mini MPIs or SDCs or anything like that?
Oh, well, I do have some mini MPIs and SDCs, but I don't really need to unload them. They go about as fast as I can build them anyway.
Okay, good.
That's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
But if anybody wants something, just email me and see if I have it, basically.
What I think somebody mentioned this before, but what does the mini MPI sell for? Was that $80 with the case?
Yep, with the case and power supply.
Yeah, that's not bad.
And then you have more than one cartridge port, so that opens up a lot of stuff you can do.
Right. Now, the only thing the MPI will not handle the 12-volt stuff like the original MPI does, right?
Well, on the mini MPI, if you're using it with a CoCo 1 that has the 12-volt voltage at the cartridge port, then it will relay it through, so that stuff will work. But if you're using it on, say, a CoCo 2 or 3 where there isn't 12 volts available at the cart port, then it won't be there.
So like it wouldn't be able to drive like an old FD 501 controller or something like that on a CoCo 2.
Right. Only on CoCo.
Right. Okay. But I don't know how big of a deal that is when you have the CoCo SDC. But that was always something I was curious about because it's so small. A real multi-pack is nice, but they're hard to find. They take up a heck of a lot of room, You have
to make sure it's upgraded if you have a CoCo 3.
Yeah, make sure it's upgraded for the CoCo 3. So I'm lucky I have one. Actually, I've got a couple I'm going to be unloading of the real MPIs. So they're nice to have, but they're giant box cars. It's like a giant sidecar to your CoCo.
Yeah, and a lot of the time you only need one other slot. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, for me, all I would need is like a CoCo SDC and a speech sound card or something like that. So my needs are simple, or some other type of sound card. So
unless, of course, you're me and want 16 slots.
Yeah.
Or me and Bill back in work days because we ran out with 4.
That's cool. Right. And Wayne's been very quiet in the background there. Wayne, can you hear us? I think Wayne's having a whole nother conversation now. This has been the first call we've had Wayne on, too. I thought it'd be nice to hear from Wayne about what was his project where he was reading the Basic 09 stuff? Decode?
Yeah, a decompiler for Basic 09.
Yeah. I mean,
You can restore source code for a packed program if you've lost the source or if it's from third party and you want to try to patch it or whatever.
I think Wayne fell asleep.
Now he's back there talking to somebody else in the room. I see his mouth moving. That's cool. Well, we got Wayne in the Skype call, so hopefully he'll be able to join us again. We got Ciaran in the call. This is great. This has been good to have some new blood in here too, to talk about some stuff where it's not just us talking about Ed stuff. It's better to hear it from Ed, you know? Oh, Wayne, are you coming back? Wayne, do you read me? Somebody sent a smoke signal out there. He's talking to somebody.
At least he muted.
What can we expect next from the great Simon Jonassen and all of his mad demos?
What can you expect? Yeah, what can you expect? At the moment, I'm playing about with Lindell's cartridge. I'm trying to convince him to put a switch on it.
Put speech on it.
No, a switch on it. To disable the ROM boot, because it's basically a ROM cartridge with an SN chip on it. But if you can actually double it as a sound cartridge at the same time, you probably have a larger audience.
I agree.
Yeah, I had asked that question, and I think he said it was using the same line as the disc controller, though, so it wouldn't work in a multi-pack.
Yeah. We had the same discussion yesterday, where saying it's using the SCS line. So you're using FF41, and it's potentially sodding up the disc controller at the same time. So question is how you're going to do it, because I mean there's a lot of potential for a very cheap sound cartridge.
Well, from my perspective on that, the MPI and Ed's should work the same way, is that the SCS line is only used on the slot that's active. So if you've got the CoCo SDC in one slot and one of those cartridges with the sound chip in the other slot, you'd have to bounce between slots to update the sound chip and then flip back to continue your disk access.
Right, that is correct. And the media player video that we saw earlier, where I'm playing the YM files, I'm doing that in the code. It's switching SCS back and forth between the CoCo SDC and the sound card.
What I'm on about here is, as long as you can load the disk, you've got the floppy disk controller or the SDC in one slot. You can load the disk, and then you just say to the MPI, look, I want slot 2 or slot 3 or whatever, and then you don't care about it, because the code here is so tiny. Pattern-based music, it's so tiny. All you want to do is just access the sound chip off the cartridge. So being able to switch off the ROM auto starts, potentially it's like the Orchestra 90 just putting a piece of tape across the auto start line. Yeah. This is
you're talking about switching both the ROM and the data lines.
I want the Game Master cartridge to have the option to not auto start.
Well, if you only switch SCS, it shouldn't auto start.
Yeah, because with the MPI, you can.
There's two different things you can switch with the MPI register. You can switch SCS from slot to slot, or the cart and the other signal there. They stay together, and you can switch those as well. When I did it, I just left those on the and then only switch SCS, which won't trigger the auto start interrupt. So
the only, I mean, at the moment, the only thing I have to play with is actually a pre-release of MES MAME, where we're using the MPI, the Game Master, and the floppy disk controller at the same time.
Are you just running an emulator? Not you don't have real hardware you're trying this out on?
I don't have the cartridge.
I
don't have the cartridge.
I think on real hardware, just like Ed says, once you switch across, you can just bounce between the two and stop the auto start.
Yeah, because I mean that's the problem. I want to make a pattern-based player where we can take like it doesn't matter if it's an AY chip, an SN chip, a SID chip. It doesn't really matter. A chip's a chip. You know, what we need to do is just offload the overhead, which is a good thing with a chip because that will just continue the tone. I mean, the AY, you say to it, I want A4, which is 440 hertz or something, and it would just play it indefinitely. Because it's got internal counters, you don't have to update it all the time, like we'd have to do with DAC.
Yeah.
And you just feed it notes every VSync or every other VSync or something, which offloads so much of the overhead. And it would be a pity not to be able to, instead of, and don't get me wrong here, don't get me wrong. What you're doing is bloody impressive, yeah? But register dumps, we can take something from another computer and play it, and it sounds really good, yeah? But it'd be better, instead of having to use masses and masses of RAM, to make a pattern-based player where you could actually compose for it yourself.
Oh, I agree totally. The reason I'm doing the register dumps is to get us some material to actually use to be able to do something with the card right off the bat.
Yeah. I mean, John done the same thing when he demoed his Game Master card at CoCo first, playing Tubular Bells and playing just general SN register dumps.
Yeah.
But the files themselves are massive, and they don't need to be.
I think what Ed's doing is he's streaming, so he's not using RAM so much. The files are stored on the SD card, so he's streaming 512 bytes at a time and feeding them straight to the sound card. So he's not really using so much RAM as he's using SD card space. So
right, with the media player that was in the video, that's using a 1K buffer.
Yeah, so it's not loading the whole tune in memory as such. So that's all right. You're just using up space on the SD card, which the SD card's huge anyway. So
right,
it's using the streaming function of the SDC cartridge now.
Right, but there are two different things. Playing register dumps, we get a big library of stuff that's already out there that's cool to play and listen to. But what Simon's talking about, we'll need that for games. We really need to get a system together where we can put together pattern-based music and actually use it in programs.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Yeah.
What I do at the moment, because when I got interested in this, because it was always like, oh, why the hell can't CoCo play at the same time as it's doing something. Let's break that limit. And I got hold of a guy from the ZX Spectrum scene, Utz, a German guy, lives in Holland, who makes 1-bit music, and we got talking back and forth, and I just made a pattern-based player, and Utz put me onto the fact that you can use, say, OpenMPT or something, and make an XM file, and we can convert this XM file into data. What we have to do is, I mean, for my players using the CoCo DAC or the CoCo 1-bit, you've got a very limited. The cheapest player just uses a sawtooth wave to make it cheap. If you start adding waveform shaping, and I think Ciaran probably backed me up on it. If you start adding waveform shaping, it gets expensive.
Yeah. We end up having to make tables of different waveforms. Although selecting between sawtooth and square is quite easy because you can self-modify in an AND instruction or a shift instruction, as I recently noticed.
Yeah, I mean, what we potentially do is we have 256-byte tables.
Okay, I think John Linville's trying to call in right now too. I need to do another juggling. Keep talking, guys. Sorry about that.
We have 256-byte tables of a given waveform that repeats itself. And for me, I don't know about SID, Ciaran. I don't know about SID, but for me, I just modify the least significant byte of a pointer.
Yeah, I think most of these work the same way, don't they? REMS is CoCoSID is the first one I saw that it really showed the way.
Yeah,
and that's really neat. You've all seen the CoCoSID stuff. Must have done. It was on the list a while ago. I'm sure.
Yeah, I've definitely seen CoCoSID.
There was a bit of a back and forth then as we all sort of chipped in and optimized bits of the core sort of fragment playback.
Yeah.
Thing. And yeah, you self modify a pointer into the table, and yeah, you maintain a 16-bit pointer, and you use the top 8 bits to index into the wave table. Yes.
So I mean, it's very interesting stuff, and if you do it in an efficient way, you can actually do other stuff at the same time. I mean, cripes, we've loaded a tape at the same time. Did you see Stuart actually took SID and took the Ocean loader and loaded a tape at the same time based on the stuff that I and he did back in the day?
Yeah, that was pretty cool. Getting it all rewritten to use constant time routines, which I assume you would have had to have done for that, is pretty cool.
Yeah, well, I did. The stuff we did, the first stuff we did was pretty simple because it just relied on what would have been a timing loop in the zero crossings for a certain cycles. So, but for Stuart to take that and put SID into it with 3 voices and waveform shaping at the same time, I was blown away.
You and me both.
Yeah, but Stuart, he shares stuff, and Stuart he's a good guy, and he gives you a good pointer, and he gives you an idea, and then you present something to Stuart, and Stuart's like, "Oh shit, why didn't I think of that?" So it's a case of sharing at the end of the day. It's just a case of, the more we share, the better it gets.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So Simon, John Linville has joined the call. If you want to ask the question again about the Game Master cartridge and the. Yeah,
I'll tell you what I'll do. Let me turn the light on because I I can open this. It's not dark, but but that kind of stuffs up the screen. Yeah, all right. My son turned the light on. Good. So, John, we were talking yesterday on Facebook about the Game Master cartridge.
Yeah.
We were talking about. I said to you maybe add some kind of switch or something so we could disable the ROM auto start so anyone could use the SN chip for anything.
Yeah, that was your suggestion.
But you kind of came back to me and said, look, it's piddling with the disk controller at the same time. So
right, it only uses the SCS signal for decoding the chip. Well, it actually does a little bit more than that because it decodes between the ROM bank switching and the chip. But either way, it's still using SCS for the decoding.
So what does this mean for me?
Well, basically, it just means you can't use it with the floppy drive controller and any other devices that might decode lazily the way the floppy driver controller does.
Okay, I mean, I'm not into all the hardware signals on the cartridge port because I've never actually played with making cartridges or anything else. So I don't know if anyone else has got any input on that.
I think John's designing his cartridge as a game ROM pack with a sound chip. It's not really being designed as a sound card on its own.
No, I just thought at the same time as yes, if we do have a game ROM, it would be nice to be able to disable the ROM and use the cartridge for another purpose. You know, so anyone, even from BASIC, could actually access a sound chip without.
Sure, I mean, it can be done. You know, it just. That's how I developed my demo. But you know, right now it's a bit fiddly. You know, you have to, like you say, put a piece of tape over the cart signal and switch the SCS signal using your MPI or replacement, and then you can access the hardware and play whatever music you want from whatever language you're programming in.
Yeah.
And so that's fine for me or you, and you know, probably a number of the people on the call at least. But it's not a real nice thing to go and sell to whoever walks in at CoCoFest, that half of whom are, let's just say, less technically inclined than the average audience member here. And so anyway, it's like Nick was saying, you know, I designed the cartridge as a games cartridge to support, you know, sale with a game. If we wanted to have something as a separate audio card, I would feel like it probably needs to be redesigned to have you know, a address assigned to it, and then the hardware added to it that it needs to decode that address in a search SLINB or whatever. Which, you know, it's not that difficult. It's you know, a little more designing and a little different or a little more hardware to build.
Right.
I mean, you know, if you're comfortable, I heard you and Ed talking a little bit a few minutes ago about just switching SLINB as your player plays. If you're comfortable with that, then it's pretty easy to redesign. You just rip off the ROM switching parts and and just leave it as is. And then you know, the players can switch SCS as necessary.
Because what I liked about it, and also with Ed's cartridge, what I like about it is the fact we don't have the overhead of what we have on the speech sound pack. The speech sound pack with having to every time the pick has to put a byte into the AY chip, you have to wait for it to say, okay, am I ready? Am I ready? Am I ready? And that's, I mean, you know yourself that the overhead on that is diabolical.
The problem with the sound and speech pack, though, is it doesn't work on a CoCo 3 without modification. So how many people have modified their, for those that have it, how many have modified it to work on a CoCo 3?
Yeah, I mean, why are we always, at the end of the day, we're always met with a brick wall.
Because CoCo.
It's just something for us to slam our heads against.
Yes. Walls are meant to be broken through or climbed over anyways, right? So,
Of course they are, but it doesn't mean we can't bitch about it.
Yeah, of course not, yeah. Hey, Mr. Linville, is there anything you want to update us on Tandy Assembly?
No.
Obviously not.
I don't know if we lost
or
John's audio.
he's breaking up, maybe.
Let's switch over to the Tandy Assembly website and take a quick look here, if I can find it on my scenes here. I swear to God, I got too much stuff going on here. I'm getting cross-eyed looking at my screens. Okay, here we go. All right, so here's Tandy Assembly. All right, so we looked at this last week. This is the exhibitor area. This looks like this hasn't changed much. No, we can't hear you, John. All right, so we still have our keynotes and our speakers. Okay, that hasn't changed too much yet. We looked at exhibitors. If you want to speak, send an email to tandysm@gmail.com. That's funny. Oh, if you want to speak, yeah, if you would like to be a speaker, right. So if you would like to be a speaker at Tandy Assembly, we need to do that. Let me put that in the YouTube chat. Right. So if somebody would like to speak at Tandy Assembly, that can be done, and that would be. Let me see if I can just paste that in here. Okay, so it's tandyassembly@gmail.com if you would like to be a speaker there. I don't think that's been updated too much yet. So under contact, it's just tandyassembly@gmail.com. Our current speaker lineup right now is Scott Adams, Don French, and Lance Miklas. Hopefully more to come on more speakers. What I don't see on here either is we don't know if we're going to have a Tandy Jam. You know, we got used to the CoCo Fest jam sessions. I don't know if Brian Schubing, the music man's going to be here, because he usually, you know, at CoCo Fest at least does things like the national anthem and stuff like that. So. What are you saying here? I nominate both Steve and Curtis. For what? What's that for, Grant?
The comedy, please.
Hey, Simon, say hi to Benjamin for us.
He's here.
Hey, Ben. How's it going, eh?
Fine, I'm just going to lift this cat down.
All right.
He's playing with the cat.
Very cool. Well, we did have Neil Blanchard come on towards the end of last week and mention that there is going to be a no minimum bid auction at Tandy Assembly. So that's going to be a nice thing to look forward to, and hopefully there'll be enough donations to have a lot of goodies to bid on. You know. Grant says he wants to speak at Tandy Assembly. Grant's nominating Curtis and I to speak at Tandy Assembly. Why don't you go up there, Grant? Yeah, very cool. Very, very cool. All right, so yeah, Tandy Assembly is only a little less than 4 months away now, which is right around the corner. How many of us here in the call think they might be able to make Tandy Assembly? I know Curtis has work schedule obligations.
Yeah.
I would like to, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm wanting to go, but it depends on how things go with my car.
Oh yeah, you got your little tornado situation going on there. Well, hopefully it's not a 3-month repair cycle there. What about you, Ed? Do you think we might get you out to Tandy Assembly?
Well, I haven't planned on it yet. So.
Plan on it. Plan on it. Grant says he's going to be there. Okay, that's good. Grant Leedy will be there. One of the things that I want to find out from Ron Klein is if Ron's going to make it. Because if Ron doesn't make it, then maybe I'll bring a Cocoa Pie as well to show off. But if Ron is there, I'd rather let him show that off since that's kind of his baby. But I think that Cocoa Pie is just such a cool little thing.
Yeah, that's wicked. That's really wicked.
And it solves so many problems. This whole $300 Coco 3 problem is solved when you can buy a Raspberry Pi for $40, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, John says slots are filling. Don't delay if you want to speak. Okay, slots are filling. Okay. I don't know, John, if you can hear us, but the one thing I mentioned on a couple of these forms, you know, the forms that you guys are circulating are not really forms. They're like PDF files that we can't modify. So I had to like take the exhibitor form, save it as a Word document so I could fill it in and send it back to you. So if you guys could either distribute the forms in some type of modifiable format where people can type into them, that would be a little bit easier, you know. Either and I guess the Word document's the easiest way because I think everybody can read that. To create a PDF with fillable forms is a little bit more work. Okay. Randy is supposed to be doing that. Okay. There we go. Very cool. All right, so we have Tandy Assembly on the horizon. We have all kinds of projects going on right now. I mean, these Dragon games that we looked at today look pretty damn cool. It's amazing, especially I guess if you use a little bit of a lower resolution mode, you're obviously going to get a little bit more speed because you're moving fewer bytes across the screen, but it still looks good. I actually kind of favor the larger pixels. It looks a little bit more retro, you know?
Yeah, they both look pretty impressive.
Indeed. So what else we want to talk about before we wrap up today's CoCoTALK? I think we've beat it. We've beat this show for a good 2 hours. We could probably give it a rest, but we can close on something.
Covered everything I wanted to talk about. So
yeah, I don't have anything else myself.
Gavin, hey, great having both Ciaran and Ed here.
Yeah, it was great having some new blood on the show, for sure. Thanks, Ed, for sharing. Thanks for everything you do for the CoCo community.
Yes, Ed.
No problem. It's lots of fun.
I'm a big fan of your work.
We all.
I'm looking at 3 SDC cards in front of me right now, CoCo SDCs. I got a couple of those. Your RGB to S video adapter has been a lifesaver for me recording off my CoCo 3. That's a fabulous invention.
Ed, have you had any thoughts of creating a sound card using the FM chips? There's the FM 2412, I think it's called. It's a very low cost chip. I added a link to the chats just now with the sample track. It sounds pretty good. I don't know if Steve can just bring that link up.
Definitely that might be something to do in the future. I have thought about it a little bit. I guess I want to get this other one out there first. But
it's just to establish a standard whereby game programmers can start using it, I guess. If you have too many different chips.
There are a couple of FM chips, I think, that support, are backwards compatible with the AY and YM 2149. Not all of them are, from what I was reading, I think, but there are a couple, I think, that are. So we might be able to get into that territory and still, have compatibility with the AY YM chip.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
Did you see that link I just put on the chat there, Steve?
Oh, okay. FM chips is a $2 FM chip. YouTube, the Death Worm. You want me to pull that up? Yeah,
I just thought if you share the audio.
Okay.
It's just that the music for this sounds a lot better. So I figured.
All right, can you guys hear it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this is like an ad lib. And that's the chip right there.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 18 pins. This sounds like a good PC ad-lib sound blaster type thing. Fedor's got a stormtrooper. I've got all the full-size helmets up in the attic somewhere. I've got Stormtrooper, Darth Vader, Boba Fett.
Holy crap.
Geek much?
Out-geeked!
Yeah, I've even got a Darth Maul one, but it's that's like a rubber one. It's not the hard one. Yeah, that sounds really good. What the YouTube video looks like that we're playing here. This is the chip. Not bad.
Yeah,
not
it just sounds less like a toy sound chip. The YM's good, but it sounds like it's a retro chip, whereas the YM2413 sounds a bit more like an actual keyboard playing. So
yeah,
and it's cheap as well. This particular one, there's a whole range of the FM chips, but this is the cheapest one.
Okay.
And I just thought, for me, music is probably the main reason I'd be looking at having a sound chip for any of my games, at least. And this chip really sounds good.
Yeah.
I wouldn't disqualify the AY chip at all. I'm going to post a link in the chat, right? And you just have a listen, Steve. Just have a listen to it, because this is a 48K ZX Spectrum, okay, playing on an AY chip. I said a 48K ZX Spectrum. I'm going to post a link, okay?
Okay.
It's a battle of the chips.
The battle of the chips.
This is the same chip that is on Ed's card right now, or on the speech sound cartridge.
Okay.
So give me like 10 seconds or something just to find it.
Okay. 9, 8, 7, 6.
Now, the thing with the YM is that it has a lot of built-in preset sounds, so you don't have to actually define the sounds. It gives you one channel you can define your own.
Okay.
But there's built-in sounds, so you don't have to store the sounds, or it's easier to create the music. You just have to concentrate on the music, not the...
Okay, here's Simon's link. This is the same chip that's in the speech sound cartridge?
Yes.
I even like the percussion sound. Good. Decent percussion for being like FM synthesis. Yeah, that's pretty good.
So don't dismiss the AY chip, because in the right hands it's a wicked piece of kit.
Well, that FM chip sounds pretty good too. But I can put one together and we can experiment with it.
I think you'll find the one that you just showed then with the AY or the other chip that Simon showed. There's a lot more work to make it sound like that though than what it is with the YM2413. There's a lot of additional tricks that they do to make it do that. So
yeah, I mean the guy who wrote that is a professional musician. And he's part of a Polish group called the AY Riders, or a Czech group called the AY Riders. They just use the AY chip on the ZX Spectrum or the Atari, and they've just taken it to a totally different level. But that was a 48K ZX Spectrum playing the tune.
It's impressive. It's impressive. Well, I think at the end of the day, we've got choices. We've got some options. And it'd be nice to see somebody produce a game to play some music. I'm looking forward to it.
Yep. And I have to say, I like Ed's idea that some of these FM chips actually are backwards compatible, because then you can kind of like have a regular sound chip that, the Game Master Cart and a few others is using, but you also have a super one that might be a buck or two more expensive or whatever, but is actually backwards compatible, so you can still use the stuff that those are using, and you have the extended capability of using the FM stuff.
Yep, we're gonna have to try it. We have to do it.
There's so many choices at the end of the day, and well, yeah. I mean, we do what we do, and we just love doing it, and that's the way it goes.
Whatever you have fun with.
Right.
Exactly, and that's the whole point of it, isn't it? That's the whole point, because if it becomes tedious, then it's not a hobby anymore, is it?
Yeah, that's work.
No, that's kind of like people's complaint with the sound speech cartridge trying to go through the microcontroller to get some of the features of the audio there, where, there was, a couple of games that did take advantage of the sound on it. I think Pitfall was one of them, wasn't that right, Steve?
Pitfall takes advantage of the music. Pitfall and Gana Buana took advantage of music, but I think it was the F-18 that took advantage of the sound.
Assault, yeah.
F-16 Assault took good advantage of the sound on it.
Yeah.
We just like I wanted to have a discussion one time about compiled sprites. We should have a music discussion sometime too, when we have some more musical things to talk about and show off and stuff. It's a great topic.
Yeah, I mean, even the built-in DAC is capable of doing some awesome stuff, as we've heard on various things, but it's at the cost of CPU time. So if you're doing like a title screen and you want some really fancy stuff, I mean, you could take like SOC's, 4-voice mod player and actually stick that in the background or something like that too, or the SID player. But if you want to try to do that simultaneously with the game, that's where you need an actual hardware sound chip, because now you're sucking way too many CPU cycles just keeping the music going.
Right.
Very, very cool. All right, there's another link in the chat there for.
Yeah, that's the same guy, different tune, same chip.
All right, let's take a listen to this one here. Xroar Flash. Oh, the Flash version of Xroar. Oh, that's kind of cool. Did you guys know there was a Flash version of Xroar?
It's really behind in functionality, but it's enough to play a few little converted SID tunes. Okay. Badly looped converted SID tunes. I thought that might be interesting given the discussion.
Okay, how do we get to it? How do I bring it up?
Well, you got to have Flash.
I have it open, but how do I get to the SID tunes on the thing?
Oh, click one of the links underneath it.
Okay, like Airball or Chucky Egg or something like that.
Or at the bottom, music brackets.
Music. Okay. Converted from SID. Okay, so if I click on music, oops, that's taking me to a download link. All right, so what is it? GNG. There we go. Ghosts and Goblins. Oh wow! And this is on a dragon. Can you guys hear that?
Yep.
Wow. Those low frequencies sound really good.
Most of the work there is done by a Perl script. And then it's brute forced into a really quite simple player.
How much CPU overhead on the player?
Oh, all of it, of course.
All of it. 111%. Definitely sounds different than what we're used to hearing from the CoCo.
Yeah, well, the CoCo's built-in DAC is actually capable of doing some pretty interesting stuff. As we see, like I said, the mod player, which actually digitized samples, you can get direct almost real-sounding drums and electric guitars and all kinds of stuff. And then the SID player and some of these other ones too. The problem is, if you're trying to do like a massive graphics movie at the same time, you can't. Good for cutscenes.
The mods and everything else is a lot of CPU power.
This sounds really good. Oh wow. Super percussion.
I'm reasonably sure that some of the sounds in this one were originally filter suites, and they just got badly translated.
Oh, that's the demo that the CoCo SID program used. I remember this one.
Wow. That's impressive.
So, Steve, have you actually tried Sockmaster's mod player yet with some of the mods?
I think we looked at it one time. You and I looked at it when we were doing one of our music demos.
Yeah, because I think that's probably the most impressive. Now, it's even a bit more complicated yet, but
yeah,
there's some pretty wicked stuff you can do on that too.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive that the CoCo can do it and that we can do it in a browser through Flash.
Did you hear the 1-bit samples I did?
Oh yeah, I've got some of those.
Not the 1-bit tunes, but the 1-bit samples.
Oh, I don't know about that.
So your rhythmics.
Oh wow.
Yeah, you had those on Facebook, if I remember.
Yeah, I'll find a link for you.
This has become the CoCo music episode without us even realizing it. So.
Here we go. Here's one. That's in 64K.
Nah, let's take a look. CoCo.
That's 64K with 1-bit differential.
I can't get it any louder though.
It's fine.
That's pretty good. I'm getting some feedback from somebody's thing. I'm hearing some echo. Now that's pretty cool.
So what we're doing is actually compressing samples into single-bit differentials. So we're saying, okay, we've got a base value and we're going up the scale or down the scale with a single value.
Mm-hmm.
So it's actually potentially 8-to-1 compression.
Yeah, there are things that can be done with our CoCos. That's quite impressive. All right.
If you've had enough, yeah.
I gotta let this cat out. Hold on one second. Come on, cat.
I thought that was another digitized sample. Nick, there was a problem with the mod player on MAME recently. Do you know if that's fixed now? Or was it the CoCo SDC that had the problem? I can't remember.
The CoCo SDC had it, but there's it's an easy fix. It's something about clearing files. The latest update on the CoCo SDC had changed some of the memory usage. It played with the amount of space available under the files command or the default settings. It was just a matter of changing the value in the files command, I think. Darren Atkinson said that there is probably going to be a fix in the next SDC firmware update anyway. So.
Oh, okay.
Hey, Rudy Kazuti is here. Hey, Rudy.
I just thought it'd be interesting to maybe bring up one of the mod player with one of the more impressive tunes there. You probably had more time to play with them lately than I have, but is there anyone in there in that one zip that looked really impressive or sounds really impressive?
I would have to give it to Steve to play, I guess. Has Steve got them there? Or?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I probably have something, but it's probably the easiest thing to do would be to do it in MAME right now because I don't feel like hooking up the whole CoCo 3 setup through here.
Yeah, because I know the CoCo archive has like a 17 meg zip file or something of a whole bunch of mods.
Yeah, you have to.
I just lost my software. There we go. I think we did a video on this. I might just be able to find that video.
I can't remember if we just mentioned it in passing and maybe tried it privately in chat. I honestly don't remember. I know Sock himself has said if you play at the lower frequency ones, the ones that don't quite sound quite as clear as the high ones, so we said you're only using about 50% of the CPU, so you actually could run something like that in the background, you know, with a CoCo 1-2 speed style game on a CoCo 3 and double speed. And if you throw a 609 in the mix too, then you might be able to actually do a fairly decent one.
All right, I'll see if I can't get a CoCo 3 going. And then what is it that I'm looking for in the way of software and whole 9 yards to pull this up?
Well, you need mod player, and there's a 639 version and a 609 version, and then just there's a mod file, zip file on the CoCo archive that's got a whole whack load of disk images for various ones.
Well, no, we have something. Of course, now I have to try to work with, because I don't have the MAME UI thing going here on this one here. All right, floppy disk 1. Okay, this is all my stuff. Yeah, trying to browse with the freaking MAME user interface, not the best thing in the world. All right, somewhere in here, mod player. Okay, CoCo tracker with some mods. Here we go. And then I have Airwolf disk, mod 6309 disk.
Yeah, that's the 639 version of the player, which does better fidelity.
All right. All right, so let's see what I can see here. Okay, this has Axel. So is it this run mod 13?
Yeah.
Okay.
Assuming you boot it up in 6309 mode.
Yeah.
I know I have one. I'll have to see if I can find it. It's not on the CoCo archive. There's one called Hard Driving, which actually has like hard rock, heavy metal guitars with real drum samples and stuff too. And it was pretty impressive.
Okay, this is CoCo Tracker, Sockmasters 512K 6309 mod player. So let's see if I can get it to load right now. I'm trying to do it in MAME, so I'm not sure how well it's going to work in MAME versus a real CoCo. Because we have done this on a real CoCo before.
Yeah, and you can, by hitting the 6 key there, you can adjust the frequency response to better or worse, which is basically better quality, more CPU time, or worse quality, less CPU time.
Okay, well, I don't even know if it's loading right now. Because I hit A to load.
Yeah, it's loading. It's probably fairly big.
Oh, yeah.
And MAME is slow on the disk I/O.
Yeah, it kind of emulates it a bit too closely. Now, MAME did have a key. There was an F key at one point. You could actually tell it to, skip syncing the CPU speed to the real speed, so you could really fast load it. But I don't remember if that's still in there or
it is.
What the key was.
Yeah, I forgot what the term for that's called. It's yeah,
frame skipper or something. I can't remember.
Something like that. Yeah. So my God, man, how long does it take to load this bloody song?
Hey,
a long time.
Yeah, but I hear Sockmaster's talking. Okay, theoretically, it could be made to auto-adjust its own sample rate in real time to ensure the game, whatever, gets just enough CPU time, or even sounds better depending on which CPU you have. Yeah. There we go. There we go. Okay, this is the 6309 version.
Yeah, and you're running at 9.1 kilohertz. You can actually get it up to almost 10.
What do I press for that?
Don't bother now. That's on the loading screen. So.
Wow, a lot of channels.
I've heard some like a lot of the mods that were done for these were using synthesizer instruments, but there's quite a few that actually get some good-sized samples of real instruments.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is one of the first things I did with the MM1 was using a mod player. So it's great to see this on a CoCo.
You guys know the words to this song?
No, it doesn't have any.
Yeah. I've made up several. They're all pretty good.
And how many of them can't be said on your
Axel
channel?
Foley is a cop from Detroit who goes to California and solves crimes. So,
Stick to your day job.
Yeah, no, this is pretty good.
He just needs to do it as a rap, have a break in there, you know?
All right. No crap.
Too late.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, so there's lots of ways to make music on a CoCo. Ideally, you want something that sounds good and doesn't choke the CPU and delights the ears of the listener. You know.
Yeah, and sometimes that's just the design of the game. Like if you do a game that's just moving a few sprites around, and you can make a really good game that just does that. Then you could do something like this in the background. If you're trying to do like a 4-way full screen scroll, might be pushing it a bit too much.
Yeah. Yeah. But there are definitely options, and electronic music is something that's always been of interest to me. I just remember listening to some of the old Moog music from the 70s. The Moog synthesizer, one of the first analog synths that gave us synthesized sounds. I loved listening to some of the classical music that played on the CoCo, like the Bach toccata fugues and all that kind of stuff. All the CoCo classical music. A lot of it sounded like an organ, but it just sounded cool, And when you hear some of these things like these mod trackers and some of these other ways to make, yeah, would be kind of cool. And actually, yeah, the actual correct pronouncing is called Moog. I've always called it Moog, but and Karen's saying in the chat, yeah, it is pronounced Moog, although it's not spelled that way. But yeah, I've always loved electronic music in video games, on the CoCo, anywhere you can get it,
Popcorn was my favorite out of the different electronic musics from that time era.
Yeah.
I think it's even in mod format for.
Yeah, I've heard that
the
one.
Mod tracker.
Yeah. Cool. Well, my stomach is telling me it's time to wrap up CoCoTALK because I got to go eat something. And I'm a slender guy, so if I don't eat something, I'll fade away.
You can go up to a month without eating, Steve.
I'm not a camel.
No, I believe that's actually technically correct. You can go a month without eating. You can do 3 days, I think, without water.
Okay, well, I've gone almost 3 hours, and this is like an eternity. All right, David Ladd? We can't talk about everything, or there'll be nothing left to talk about. We got to save some for next week.
Fine, I'm going to go play GTA 5.
Yes. So definitely, I'm always thankful for everybody who's here on the calls. It's so great to have people who want to get together and talk about the CoCo. It's great to have people joining us on YouTube. Let's say hi to some of the people who've been with us on YouTube. Let me go back and say hi to some of the chat. So we had Richard Cavell was here earlier. Barry Marks was here. Ed Snider is with us. Sockmaster is with us. Travis Pope had stopped by. Wayne Campbell was here on the call and in the thing, and then had a whole nother conversation happen. So hopefully Wayne will come back. Fedor, thank you for being here. Rod Gaming stopped by the chat. Curtis was in the chat as well. Mark was in the chat. Davey Mitchell stopped by the chat. Who else stopped by the chat? Noah Spence stopped by the chat.
Steve Powell.
Grant Leedy was in the chat. Rudy Kazuti was in the chat. Hey, it still is. Okay, and Steve Powell is here too. Steve Powell, how are you? And Jason Ross, I was here for almost the last hour. Well, you can't be a silent observer and have us know that you're there. We don't have that kind of power. Yes. So yeah, thank you everybody who's been here watching as well, because it is I don't know. It's crazy. It's crazy that every week we get together and want to talk about this, and there's other people who want to hear it. So, so thank you for that special kind of crazy. Ed Snider, thanks for being here. It was great having you on the call. Karen as well. It's great having you guys on the call. It was even nice having Curtis and David here for a change too. So,
somebody to keep Steve in line.
Yes, and Fedor
never works, but we try.
Yeah. So
Still here.
We're going to wrap up this week's CoCoTALK. We'll have something else to talk about next week. We'll make it up then, too. So it's always great. It's always great to improvise a live show. Simon Jonason, the madman, thank you for being here. And your mad son, Benjamin, and all his Rubik's Cubes antics that he does. Great having you. Nick Marentes. Nick, anything, can you update us on Gunstar? Anything new in the development?
Nothing new. No, nothing new. I am working on a part of it that I'll unveil in the next blog. But yes, it's still a work in progress. It's top secret. If I tell you, I have to kill you.
That's great. All right. Well, we're
after
going
you
to
kill Steve, you can tell the rest of us. So
yes, we're going to sign off of CoCoTALK. So thank you everybody who join us every week. We appreciate it. It's good. I love listening to this kind of stuff. You know, I love being a fly on the wall, hearing talk about hardware and software and all things CoCo and all things retro. So as long as we keep having people who want to talk and people who want to listen, we'll keep having this show. So excellent. All right, well, we're signing off. Just remember, you may only be young once, but you can be retro forever. And speaking of which, that's a John Linville quote. John Linville was here for a little bit, too. Thank you, John, for being here. And we'll see you guys next week. Take care.
Later, everyone.
Bye-bye.